Day 45. Let's get started. Also, I read there's a new Kindle coming out, I think, on the 16th of October. Very, very looking forward to that. I think this Kindle, it's like, I think it was released in 2015, so I got it in 2016. So, yeah, it's a long time. I could use this, but the problem with this one is the battery life isn't really good. It dies after like 3 days. Um, so yeah, can't have that. I was reading about Reagan, but mind is telling me that's not what I want to read right now. I'm gonna go back to reading Learn Helplessness. second. Is the mic on? Okay, it is. 1 second, alright? not just the idea. So what he's saying is, it's not just the idea of, but it has to be mentally there. It has to be like directly saying that it's okay. Let's see. Okay. This one thing that I dislike about reading scientific journals or articles is that the language is so freaking complex for a average layman to understand. This is where ChatGPT comes super, super handy because it simplifies the language for me to understand it a little bit better rather than me wasting my time 5, 6 times trying to reread it and not understanding and facing a brick of wall. This tells me that you're not smart enough or brilliant enough, or you're not reading this correctly enough. I know what I just said is just, I'm just frustrated. Jesus Christ, man. I mean, this is okay. I'm not gonna. They must have had their reasons, but I don't understand this. So, you train a dog to you classically condition a dog to be fearful of a light. When you turn it on, a shock is administered, and they can't do anything but take the shock. So they harnessed it, so they can't jump around or they can actively avoid the shock. And then they classically condition, I guess, to for the dog to jump to avoid a certain signal. So the jumping is the reaction, right? And the signal, in this case, it's not a light. It's not light, obviously, because they want the dog to be, well, disassociated with the life, with the action that it's doing to avoid a certain signal or stimuli. So what tone is on the article, it says tone, and they're saying, as the dog is classically trained to fear the light because it resonates with shock, and fearing the signal causes the dog to jump. So they're saying that fear is the same thing, is in the same level of like a shock. I don't get it. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's an experiment, so. But even if it's an experiment, they still want to have a sort of relevancy. I just don't see the relevancy between the two. That's the same thing as me, like, what? I'm gonna associate this with food because I'm hungry right now. Let's say I see something blue every time I smell something and I find delicious food, and when I eat the food, it's delicious. But I see something blue all the time. Actually, I don't even know that why. I can't. I was about to do a signal that um, come you know, I was gonna do an action that signifies me shooting myself in the head, but I don't know if that's allowed on YouTube. So, have you guys seen the latest movie Joker 2? I heard it was pretty. I heard it was not that great. I heard the first one. I mean, I saw the first one very recently, and the first one was pretty good. Um, it was quite convincing. And you want to establish that sympathy for this character, for this Joker character, right? And I think they did a very good job on it. What he did was egregious, um, horrible, but there's no but. And at the same time, they're two different things, separate things. His egregious actions and his very depressing, upsetting, and just downright horrible upbringing. I think it's interesting play. Apparently, the second one isn't very good. You know what? I'm more excited about Smile 2. It releases in what, 2 weeks? I think the release date is sometime in middle of October. I don't know. I remember it was an even number. I don't know if it was the 14th or the 18th or the 16th. I don't know. Definitely not 12th though. I think it was 18th. Who knows? Anyways, let's go back. Yep, merely an annoyance that got in the way of testing to process theory. After all, the experiment could be done at least as adequately by reversing the phases, doing the avoidance training first, then pairing the light in shock while the dog is in the harness, and finally testing the light in the shuttle box. The light still cannot gain stimulus control over jumping unless one assumes the animal is making miniature or mental jumps over a hurdle while strapped in a harness. Yeah, that's not. I mean, in how are they gonna do that? Mental jumps over a hurdle. For that to happen, doesn't the dog need to associate the image of the hurdle, to avoid? But at the same time, in order to do that, there has to be that image of the hurdle being the what do you call it? Being the tool to help the dog escape the shock. You can't imagine something that you haven't seen. It's the same thing as. That's why we can't imagine dreaming about faces that we have never seen before. One scientist's artifact can be another's phenomenon. Fall of 1964, Bruce Overmere showed us a helpless dog in the shuttle box, passively accepting shock and not jumping the hurdle to turn it off. He asked us if he wanted to collaborate with him and unraveled the puzzle it represented. We found the phenomenon to be dramatic and worthy of attention in its own right. If the dog failed to jump when the light came on, it was shocked. The shock could itself be discontinued if the dog jumped. I wonder if there is like an interval, like if the light turned on, like they give him like a. Isn't that also important? I don't know, like how short of an interval it is. Like let's say the light turned on and the dog didn't jump for like 3-4 seconds, but then after 7-8 seconds it jumped, or the light turned on. I don't know. Doesn't that make sense? I guess that ties in with urgency. I don't know. If the dog failed to jump when the light turned on, I was shocked. Yeah, okay. The shock could itself be discontinued if the dog jumped. If the dog did not jump, the shock was turned off after 60 seconds. As these dogs did not learn to jump the hurdle to turn off the shocks and would continue to take the full 60 seconds of shock. Jesus. 60 seconds. On trial after trial. Interestingly, the animals would occasionally leap over the hurdle, but on the next trial, they would revert to taking the shock. It was as if they did not profit from their exposure to the relationship between their jumping over the barrier and the termination of the shock. Intrigued by these results, we decided to pursue an explanation for this laboratory annoyance. That is interesting, yeah. So they would rather take the full 60 seconds of shock even if they've learned. So I'm assuming it's obvious to me because I'm seeing the thing here, but the dogs don't see it. The dogs don't see what's the official term here? Yeah. They don't see the relationship between jumping and shock avoidance. Like they don't see that's they just think that it's a mere coincidence. If a dog or if a being, actually, if a dog thinks that way, if the dog sees it as a mere coincidence instead of recognizing that a positive change has been brought in by a certain action, then that's just giving up, right? Like the animal is just given up. Holy shit! Oh, excuse my French. that's depressing. If I were to equate that, what is that? Let's say I won the lottery. I won like $10 million from the lottery. And I'm like I've like given up on life. I'm super depressed. Actually, it's different. Because dogs don't know about, I don't think dogs know about suicide. Classical conditioning phase of the Overmere and Leaf 1965 experiments involved administering 10 second tones to a dog, followed by 0.5 second shocks to its feet. Okay. So these studies reveal that the essential feature was that the dog be given a sufficient number of shocks that it could do nothing to prevent or terminate. So this is interesting. These studies reveal that the essential feature was that the dog be given a sufficient number of shocks that it could do nothing to prevent or terminate. Have you guys seen like a video of this is a fascinating video that I saw recently. on Instagram. I don't use Instagram much. I was I actually saw this last night. Um, what was it? The reason why I say this is the reason why I mentioned last night and that I don't use Instagram much was I went on Instagram yesterday to check up on my friends, what they were doing, etc. It took me like what 5 minutes, I guess. And then I was on Shorts for a brief 10 minutes just to see what was going on. And in those 10 minutes, there was a video about a young man. Well, young man. I think everyone was at a concert, and the singer or dancer or entertainer threw one of his merchandises to the crowd. To which and there was the video showed the young man on the right, and the one that I want to talk about is the woman who was on the left. The young man was tall. The woman was short, and the woman was of late middle age. She looked about late 40s to early 50s. And so when the merch was thrown, the young man caught it, right? Both of them wanted to catch it, but then the young man got it because of his height advantage. And when he caught it, the woman showed a very like given up kind of vibe. Like the woman wasn't even she didn't have like any sort of a negative reaction to it, or like an annoyance on her face, like some sort of emotions, right? She was just and I would say what I mean by some sort of emotions is that sort of emotions that you show when you're a little upset or when you're upset, happy, etc., right? She showed absolutely nothing of that. She was just sad. Like she was frowning, but not in like that exaggerated frown. She was like, like a very just sad. Just sad that like so much crap has always been happening to me, just accept it. And you kind of learn to take that, and it just kind of kills you on the inside, like that sort of vibe that I got. And I felt that. I'm not saying I am, but I felt it. Like I felt that ominous, very cold, thorny, negative vibe, just depressing vibe. But when the young man, beautiful guy, he gave the caught merchandise to her, and then she looked up, and then she gave him a hug, and then, the young man gave her a hug, and it was a very beautiful, heartwarming moment. But that kind of given up vibe of the woman, that the reaction that she showed, it lingered in my mind. That's why I'm like resonating and with this, because I oh shoot, I've been talking without pausing the video. I think there really is that breaking point, and this also made me think positively in a way, because that also means there has to be a positive breakthrough where one is, if one is exposed to a tremendous amount of positive or knowledge or anything stimuli, like the human brain can reach that phase of growth, and when they reach that phase, it's exponential, you know. Like everything could be seen as positive or opportunistic. I don't know if that's a word. If there is a floor where if you receive enough shit, enough just crap in your life, excuse my French by the way, you just, everything is just black, like there's no light, that kind of vibe. I don't know. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm learning. I actually wanted to check out this book because it was a very fascinating, and it was a very scary, ominous feeling that anyone could experience. I'm human. Whoever's watching this video is human, right? Like we all have the same thing inside our heads. So if I can feel pain, you can feel pain too. Happiness, sadness, etc. So yeah, it's just a way to just, yeah. Occurrence of tones and iterational shocks are not essential indeed. Delivery of 85-second inescapable and unavoidable shocks became the standard procedure used to study later failure to learn in the shuttle box. 80. Jesus, 80. 85-second inescapable and unavoidable shocks. Like, think about that. Like, the dog doesn't know, like, the dog doesn't know, okay, I'm trying really hard not to use profanity. A dog doesn't know anything about electric shocks, right? Dog doesn't know anything about time. It doesn't have that sense of time, in my opinion. Like, they don't have that, what we have. To be administered 80 times, the number 80, because it is quantifiable by us, we have some sort of familiarity to it. So it's not, we recognize how much of a number that is, but at the same time we know that it's 80, and we know there's something that is a bigger number, right? Something that is greater than 80. So it doesn't register us to as very heavy or a lot. But think about that. Like, you don't know if the dog being administered this has been trained by a human to understand the concept of numbers, right? I don't even know if that's possible. Jesus, 80. What is that? 400 seconds? Damn, that is just. Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel so bad for the dogs that went through this shit. It's fucking awful. What is exposure to inescapable shock compares a dog who does not learn a very simple shuttlebox task later on? Frozen instant. When shock is inescapable, the dog learns that it is unable to exert control over the shock by means of any of its voluntary behaviors. Alright. When shock is inescapable, the dog learns that it is unable to exert control over the shock by means of any of its voluntary behaviors. It expects this to be the case in the future, and this expectation of uncontrollability causes it to fail to learn in the future. I think this is why it's super important for parents to tell their kids that it's fucking okay to fail. Like, it's okay to receive a fucking, like, a D or an F on your report card. Like, it's okay. Obviously, you don't want to just consider it as an okay thing. You want the kid to learn and understand what happened, and positively support. I think supporting is super important. Yeah, that's. the dog learns that it is unable to exert control over the shock by means of any of its voluntary behaviors. When shit happens to people in their lives and they lose that control, you know, oh, God. Okay, I'm not. Yeah, alright. Anyways, I'm hungry. I'm gonna get something to eat. This has been day 45. I'll see you guys on day 46.